What's up, everybody? Chris with chrisbello.com. In this video, I wanted to just talk about an interview that I had with Ricky Watson of Product of Society. I did an interview, we just had the audio version, so I just wanted to have a little video to correspond with that and kind of send you over to the podcast to check it out. But basically, Ricky and I are old high school friends, kind of like a lot of high school friends. A lot of the contacts that you don't really keep up with so well because you've gone to different schools, you live in different states now, people tend to move around. But with social media, the cool thing is that you kind of creepily know all the major updates about people. And at any point in time, if you ever think of somebody, you're able to go and kind of creep on their social media profiles and see what they're up to. Did they get married? Did they move to Chicago or Michigan or wherever? So that's really cool to see. And I have seen Ricky's consistency and his progress with his business, Product of Society. So I reached out to see if he would be able to share some information for our audience. I wanted to cover some of the key points that we discussed in this video in case you don't have time right now to go and listen to the podcast interview, which is about 40-ish minutes long. Some of the key takeaways that we discussed in the episode: follow your true passions. Your family and friends may not understand or agree with you, but ultimately you need to do what makes you happy and fulfilled. So Ricky actually is from Houston, Texas, where I live now and where I'm from. And he knew he wanted more. He needed to change his environment. He wanted to move out to Los Angeles, and his family didn't understand at first. Why would he want to move? He's got such a good base here. All his family's here. Cost of living's lower. But he knew deep down that he needed to change that environment in order to get to the next level. And for him, that meant moving to Los Angeles, which he did. He actually lives in Pasadena, California now. Another thing that I took away from our interview is how amazing it feels to have positive impact on others through the content you create. So Ricky was talking about that when blockchain and Bitcoin was kind of big a few years ago, when it was at $200 or so, he had started blogging about it and writing about it, teaching people about it. And he felt so good to have a positive impact when people would reach out and tell him, hey, Ricky, because of this information on your website or your blog, I was able to make some money in Bitcoin or whatever it is. And I understand that impact as well, because people start to reach out to me, DMing me on Instagram or sending me an email saying they stumbled across my podcast and they were just so amazed at the content they were able to take away, or maybe I said something that just changed their mindset, or even just taking actionable steps like when I tell them to narrow their focus on their goals. So someone actually just messaged me yesterday on that, saying that I really have made a huge difference and they've seen progress in their life just from me telling them to focus on less things and dedicate time to that. So I totally understand where Ricky was coming from when he said how amazing it feels to impact someone positively. And then Ricky and I also go way back. He made a reference in the podcast episode of how he knows I used to work at H-E-B, a grocery store in Texas. I was bagging groceries when I was 16 and pushing carts inside. And he's had a lot of humble jobs like that as well. Reminds you to remember where you came from and your experiences. You can always learn something no matter what it is, and you can always learn from the customers and the experiences in those jobs. Another thing I took away: motivation, hustle, and grit supersede intelligence. That is extremely powerful. You don't have to be the smartest person ever. You don't have to be born into wealth to be successful. You are able to outwork people and get there. There are people who are born into wealth and have huge fortunes, and they blow it all away because they're not motivated, not pushing themselves for more. There are other people who start with like a 5 or 8 person family in a 1-bedroom apartment living in poverty, and they've built their way out of that hole that they were just born into. You can dominate by outworking everyone in the room. Daily motivation quote in this episode is a Malcolm Gladwell quote, because Ricky mentioned he really liked the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And the quote is, "Practice isn't the thing you do once you're good, it's the thing you do that makes you good. So you need to practice to get good at your craft." Some of the actionable steps from this episode include: what are you truly passionate about? Take time to figure it out. What makes you excited? What makes you want to jump out of bed instead of hit snooze on the alarm clock? And then spend time trying to identify that. Are you working towards that now? And if not, what's stopping you? Is it family, friends, what others think? Maybe the job that you're in, you feel stuck. To try to spend some time thinking about how can you dedicate your life to doing things that you're passionate about, or at least start something on the side and do the job that you need to pay the bills until you're able to grow that to something that is sustainable, where you're able to leave your day job and do that thing that makes you passionate and fulfills you. And then remember that motivation, hustle, and grit supersede intelligence. You don't need to be born with the right cards in your hand. You can switch out cards and create the deck that will help you win in life. And you can do that by learning more, going to conferences, networking with like-minded individuals, expanding your network, pushing yourself, working harder than everyone else in the room. So that's my update for today. Go check out the interview with Ricky from Product of Society. I'm going to link up all of the notes that we discussed as well as his social media handles. And I'll be putting out a little more content too, talking about the Affiliate Summit West conference that I just attended this past week in Las Vegas. I got a chance to meet a lot of cool people like Neil Patel. He's like the king of SEO. Talked about digital marketing strategies going forward and how the landscape's changing. I also got to hear Ryan Dice's keynote, who is from Digital Marketer, and he talked about a lot of the funnels that he uses, a lot of the marketing techniques, and how to really convert your customers and optimize your sales funnel. So I'll post another video about that. I got to piece together some of the little clips that I put, and as well as talk some of the feedback that I have. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them in the comments below, and go listen to the podcast. Link is in the description.